All right, everybody, welcome into episode 74 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. It's been recorded on April 24th, 2023. I'm Nicholas Hill, as always, from the crazy, chaotic Chattanooga, Tennessee. And joining me from hopefully a much more quiet Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, is Gustavo Tomazeli. Gus, I hope you have not had to watch a SWAT standoff in person today.
No, I haven't. But I guess if I went further than downtown, probably would be some crazy things, but not as crazy as you experience. But glad to be on our only podcast in the world that talks about things Brazil and American sports. And but here in America, things are going smoothly. Um, the only you know I mean, sports happening. We had a big sports weekend in Americana that I haven't experienced in a long time, and definitely gonna get into that with some, real Bronco action and even some charity great game action with Ronaldinho and other stars. But definitely start with the American topics because
Yeah,
wow,
it is playoff time. It is
playoff.
playoff time, both basketball and hockey. And we have crazy results all over the place here. Honestly, the focus right now is Sunshine State. So first, I'm just on the ice real quick. The Maple Leafs and the Lightning are tied at 4. 22 seconds left in the third period. Very likely going to overtime. The Toronto leads this series 2-1. Obviously, we all know the narratives about Toronto. They can't win a playoff series. Uh, I mean, you got to think if they're going to do it, they got to find a way to win this game up 2-1 here in game 4 to give themselves free shots to advance, which they haven't done in a very long time. Over on the also early this evening, the New Jersey Devils beat the New York Rangers in MSG 3-1. So that's a series tied 2-2 in the Battle of the Tri-State. But on the basketball side of things, we just saw a pretty massive upset. The Miami Heat have taken down the Milwaukee Bucks 119-114, and the Miami Heat are one game away from advancing to the second round and pulling off that 8-1 upset behind just an incredible game from Jimmy Butler, 56 points. Unbelievable. No other player had more than 15 on the Heat. That was Bam Adebayo. Giannis Antetokounmpo, he was injured in game 3. They lost that game. He came back tonight, had 26, 13, and 10. A really good game for him. But when you look at the stat line here, Chris Middleton, 4 of 12, 14 points. Brook Lopez had 36, an incredible game, but they really didn't have much help from anywhere else. And the Milwaukee Bucks are facing elimination. They're going to have to find a way to win 3 straight games. And I guess the question is, if they go down here, how much of a failure is this for the Milwaukee Bucks, being the number 1 seed, trying to get their second title in 3 years? There's been a lot of talk about their aging roster around Giannis. Are they starting to have their window close on them?
First of all, Nick, one thing that I noticed from the NBA that I don't know if you noticed too, how tough it has been for the top seeds to defeating the lower seeds, especially with this play-in competition started.
Yeah, I mean, it really seems like a team can get kind of hot in that play-in tournament and really propel themselves into the postseason. It's kind of weird though with Miami. Remember they lost to Atlanta in that first playing game, and they had to outlast. Who was it?
Chicago.
Yes, that's right. They had to beat Chicago in the playing game, so they really weren't coming into this playing tournament on a high note. But I mean, you got to give credit to Miami. I mean, granted, yes, they got to play one game without Giannis, but remember they went into Milwaukee game 1 when they had Giannis and beat them fair and square in Milwaukee. So I mean, for the Bucks, I think, obviously you're going to have to find a way to win 3 straight games. I think they can win game 5 for sure. And then game 6 will be all about can Miami defend home court, because if they have to go back to Milwaukee for a game 7, then it's going to become really hard for them to pull off that upset.
Yeah, I feel like it also symbolized how Jimmy Butler became the not the only the face of the franchise, but the spirit of the franchise. I feel like it was something that I never, in recent memory, I never felt a team and a player be so connected in the recent NBA, the recent NBA history with the creating super teams and stars wants to play with stars. Like Jimmy Butler is the antithesis of that. He wants to
Yeah.
be the guy in Miami. Be like, hey, I am Miami, not Jimmy
Yeah.
Butler.
I mean, it's like Damian Lillard in Portland. Like they're basically the only two that are really like that. It feels like. Um,
And and the Heat and the Trailblazers fans be like cherishing that. Like of course, especially Damian Lillard deserves a better roster to be competitive and kind of how can I say make a more competitive team. But like Jimmy Butler is carrying this team, which is slightly better than let's say Portland.
yeah. So just kind of looking through the entirety of the playoffs. We only have one completed series. That was the Philadelphia 76ers sweeping the Nets. And I guess for a lot of people, this wasn't too big of a shock. I thought the Nets would give them a much bigger push. I mean, in fact, I picked the Nets to upset the 76ers. So that shows how good I am at predicting stuff. Um, but I will say this: I still have serious doubts with the Sixers. I mean, Embiid isn't 100% right now. And just we've seen the 76ers just kind of put themselves in some bad positions here. But I will say this with the potentially the Heat knocking out the Bucks, it really could set up a situation where you have the 76ers and the Celtics really playing for a right to go to the finals, in my opinion.
But the question is, which James Harden player version is going to show up?
Correct. And we've seen him disappear time and time and time
Um,
again in the playoffs,
how can
and
a, how
that
can
would terrify me.
how can such a skillful basketball player like James Harden be so ineffective when it comes to playoff time? Like
Yeah,
time
I
and
mean,
time
literally
again.
4 of 18 in Game 4. I mean,
Yeah,
just not enough. Granted, he had 11 assists and 8 rebounds, so you have to give him that at least. I think here's the thing with James Harden: he relies so much on foul calls and getting to the free throw line. I think in the playoffs, refs don't call as much, and I think that hurts him
yeah,
significantly.
because there's more spotlight. Like playoff games has more spotlight than like a regular season Tuesday game.
Oh, absolutely. You can get away with stuff in the regular season that you just can't get away with in the playoffs. So I'm still very bullish on the Sixers. Now, I will say this: the Celtics did not have two great games in Atlanta. They did win Game 4, and I think they will finish this off in Game 5 in the Garden. Um, I'll say their defense has been kind of meh, especially the last two games. Granted, you have to give the Hawks credit, especially with Trae Young and some of the other opposite power that they have. But if we assume that the Heat can finish off Milwaukee, I mean, the Celtics are obviously now the favorite to go to the finals in the East. But I will say this, though, the team I'm most impressed with on this side, frankly, is the New York Knicks. Like, they have stunned me how good they have played in this postseason. Like, not just it's not really an offensive thing. Their defense. I mean, they've only let Cleveland get to 100 points once in 4 games, and what they have done to Donovan Mitchell, like he had a horrific time in Madison Square Garden. On Sunday in Game 4, he was 5 of 18. It
I,
only had like 2 points in the second half.
it also come back to remember when the player that the Knicks wanted to get to be the star along with RJ Barrett is uh, Donovan Mitchell, and he kind of gave a middle finger, so that makes it even more kind of like pushes even further why the Knicks were being so hard on him. I believe.
Yeah, and what's interesting is just how quietly the Knicks actually assembled a pretty decent roster. I mean, look at this. I mean, if you look at the Knicks roster, I mean, man, if you just put a superstar with them, that's a title, that's a potential championship winning roster. Um, just because of how well they play defense, how well they play together. I mean, Jalen Brunson. I mean, we've talked about how he. I think his the loss of him to Dallas was huge. Like he really was a silent hero and a wingman to Luka on Dallas, but he has honestly become the guy in New York, and it's been pretty incredible to watch. Along with him, and of course, we know what RJ Barrett, he is just developing. He's getting better and better and better. I mean, Julius Randle is getting better. I like what Obi Toppin brings. I remember him at Dayton back in college, and we got robbed just of seeing him, what he could have done in that March Madness. Um, I mean, I still don't think this is a title winning team, but here's the thing: if they play the Heat, they could win that series. And then imagine, and what I want to see more than anything right now, give me a Knicks Celtics Eastern Conference Finals.
Whoa.
Imagine those crowds.
It would be
Imagine
like
Game 3 in the Garden.
And I feel like a lot of a lot of Yankee fans will help. Will be a lot of Yankee help because of the Boston hate.
Oh my God! I mean, those would be just unbelievable crowds. So I am rooting for the Knicks. I'm all in. I like that team, and honestly, it'd be great for the NBA. Show that you don't need a superstar to win a championship. So, especially with Cleveland, and honestly, in terms of failure, I think for Cleveland, this is honestly like really bad. Just like their offense has completely disappeared in this postseason. Just a very just a really bad performance, kind of showing that you don't have a LeBron anymore by the lake.
Yeah, but I think the Cavs are to be disappointed, but not destroyed. I feel like they're gonna be fine because they have like in a good rebuilding point. Like they are getting progress.
Absolutely, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the East. Now the West is perhaps more interesting. Now you have the Nuggets up 3-1 the Timberwolves. Minnesota extended their game by one season, and I think that's basically what they did last night. I think Denver will close them out in Game 5. Personally, I don't see any way Minnesota comes back from 3-0.
No, I also don't see it.
Yeah, but the other three series here are definitely the free series I was most excited for. Now, Suns Clippers, even though there's been some excellent play in this series, I do think the Suns have really established themselves as one of the teams to watch out for in this postseason. They were my pick to win the NBA Finals, and they're up 3-1 on the Clippers. And I thought this thing would go to 7. And, we saw KD and Russell Westbrook go head-to-head in the last game. Russell Westbrook had 37 for the Clippers. An unbelievable performance. 17-29 was still not enough for the Clippers.
Update on hockey going to overtime in Tampa Bay.
Oh, yeah. This is as big of a period as the Toronto Maple Leafs have had in a very, very long time. If you're going to break your curse, Toronto, you got to break it now. Also, Colorado and Seattle are in Game 4. Also, shout out to the Kraken. They've been super, super competitive in that series. Colorado does lead 2-1, but I know the crowd in Seattle is certainly appreciating what they're seeing from the Kraken. We'll get into that in just a second. Also, speaking of the next series we're going to get into, well, actually, we were on Suns Clippers. But KD has just been spectacular for the Suns, and I just really like the Suns team. I really do. And I think if they can continue to play the way they're playing, I really see them being a title team.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why KD went to the Suns because he saw potential on getting another ring, a ring that he will be the face of it because deep down he knows that the Golden State Warriors rings that he got wasn't him, was him and really surround roster that was already winning without him.
Yeah, and Kawhi Leonard is going to be out again in Game 5.
Oh, and
So
by the way, the Clippers, they're done with the Kawhi Leonard experiment, right? You know, I agree. I love the Colin Cowherd uh, anecdote. Like, Kawhi Leonard is the student that is like, oh, I'm not gonna study. I'll be good on the test. I don't worry. And then he fails the test. It's like, so why you wanna take the load management on the regular season, then you can't play on the postseason? So I feel like Clippers and the Kawhi Leonard experiment was bad. It was terrible.
yeah, it's so weird because I mean Kawhi Leonard, everywhere he's been a champion. Like he was a champion in San Antonio. He brought Toronto their first and only championship. So you would have thought that if anyone was going to bring that level of excellence to the Clippers, an organization that just can never seem to get out of their own way, it would have been Kawhi Leonard. And it just has not been the case. So it's I don't know. And you also got Paul George, who you know he's not playing either. Yeah, I don't know. It's just definitely weird. That big three never got going ever in LA. Like, how many games did they even play together? Like, your star right now is frankly is Russell Westbrook, and I mean basically this team right now is the Oklahoma Thunder from like 3 years ago. So it's just
But you talk about the Kawhi Leonard when both times he was a champion, the culture was already established around him. Like when he came to San Antonio, it was kind of like the mid to an end era in in the Spurs. There was still Tim Duncan, there was still Manu Ginobili, there was the roster that was already getting results without him. And when he went to the Toronto, he went to Toronto. The how can I say? When he went to Toronto, there was already a good culture around it. Like with DeMar DeRozan, I mean, I know DeMar DeRozan left because of the trade, but the team was already getting through the playoffs. I know LeBron was the kryptonite, but then it was funny that literally when LeBron left, Toronto won. So the question is, was the merit of Kawhi or was the kryptonite of Toronto that left?
I mean that's a good question, and it'll be very interesting if Kawhi never wins another title. If he never does anything big again, I'll be curious what his legacy is. Because you're right, like he didn't rebuild San Antonio; he was just merely another piece to overcome LeBron. Um, and Toronto, yes, was special. That run was special, but he got help, of course, with the Warriors falling apart due to injury and literally being just Curry at the end.
Yeah, no, but what I want to talk about LeBron is the kind of like the Toronto Raptors were, a great team in the East. They were constantly making deep runs in the playoffs and always running through LeBron. So when LeBron left the East, that was when Toronto finally won. So the question is, Kawhi brought this team a title, or they got the title because their main kryptonite was out?
I think the main kryptonite was out. I think that had to be really the answer because I think we haven't really seen Kawhi beat a team at full strength. We haven't seen him do what LeBron did in 2016 with Kyrie.
Yeah,
So, and
yeah,
that's the difference. And that's why Kawhi will be like in the 20, 25, 30 range all time, if that. He won't be in the top 10, top 15, because as we've seen, this whole LA thing has just not worked.
oh yeah. Speaking of LA, the Lakers are up by 1 point, after trailing for as much as 8 to 10 points to the Memphis Grizzlies, but they got hot in the last 3 minutes. They're up by one. Here in at least Brazil TV is 2 minutes and 17 seconds.
I'm at 237, so I'm about 20 seconds behind you. Um,
I love how crazy it is. Like I am literally in the another part of the world, but I'm still ahead of you.
I know, and it's just the way the streaming works. Because we have YouTube TV. So we don't have actual. Because I mean, it's cable, but it's through the internet. It's internet cable, so it's
Yeah.
not live. So not great if you're a gambling man, just to say the least. But what was like crazy about Lakers Grizzlies on game three was that first quarter. I don't know if you saw that first quarter, Gus, how bad it was for Memphis. They were down 35-9 in the first quarter. Now they fought back and got back to as close as 10 in that game, but they never really stood a chance in that. And it's just like in obviously
Whoa.
situation with Dylan Brooks.
I mean,
Uh,
LeBron like right now was pushed like by I think was number 27 Brody or something. Like this game has been so physical all night.
yeah, I mean these two teams do not like each other at all. And that's why it makes this series so compelling. Like, it's been such a hard fought series. It's been great. Um, and I really hope this thing goes seven. Like it's been this series and the next series we're going to talk about. I mean, there have been two of the best first round series I've seen in a very long time.
Oh,
I mean, it's been fascinating.
but how about Sacramento and Golden State?
Oh
That
my goodness,
that's
that whole
the
series has been amazing.
because Sacramento like they deserve this win. Like if there's a team because they are so funny. They're in they're small market team in a state that holds so many big market team like Lakers, Dodgers, 49ers, um, the Kings.
I mean, it's just you're completely right. And we saw another kind of small market team in the A's. Now they're on the fritz, probably leaving, and the Kings are probably the next least powerful franchise in that entire state. But I mean, you just the way that roster's being constructed. I mean, Keegan Murray, the rookie out of Iowa, he went absolutely berserk in that last game. 23 points. Was 5 of 7 for free. Gave them a shot to win. I mean, of course, De'Aaron Fox is a superstar. Now I've known he's always been really good. I remember when he played at Kentucky. We've seen him play when he was at Kentucky back in, like, what was it, 16, 17, something like that. I mean, he was great then, and he has become a legitimate NBA star. And the Kings, they're built. Obviously, Game 5 in Sacramento is absolutely critical. They have got to win the next game. Now, obviously, for them, they're going to have to find a way to contain Steph and Clay. Steph and Clay did their thing. 32 for Curry, 26 for Clay in game 4. That's what you expect from them. They're going to both score a lot of points in the playoffs. I think, though, honestly, what the key is here, I think Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole, you've got to find a way. Got to find a way to stop them. And plus, I think you got to find a way to get Draymond Green in foul trouble. Now, Green's coming off the bench now. Draymond specifically requested to come off the bench because he thought that would just be better for the team. And so far, it's working for Golden State. But I don't know how the series is going to finish because I would think that Golden State's experience is going to win out in the end. But they got to go back to Sacramento for Game 5, and that arena, as we saw the first two games, is going to be on fire. Once again, will the Warriors' championship experience prevail?
This Game 5 is going to be so decisive because, as we've seen so many times in the NBA, that's where you solidify or melt down.
Yeah, I mean, it's Game 5s are just insane because I think it's something like 83% of teams that win Game 5 when the series is tied 2-2 win the entire thing or win that series. So it's so important. So I can't wait to watch that Game 5 in Sacramento because it's going to be incredible. I think it's not until Thursday, if I'm correct, or Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday night. They still have games on Thursday. Wow, that's going to be a lot to balance with the draft. but
Yeah,
it's just the way they schedule them.
but but nevertheless, like definitely we can save that for next week's episode because Thursday is gonna be all in on the draft because it's gonna be big night for draft for the NFL. But definitely, I mean, I guess is this one of the peakiest times in the spring? I guess up until like mid June. That's why I guess the MLB has to move their regular season later and starts maybe in the summer. Like right now, nobody's paying attention to the MLB. Nobody.
No. Now, I will say this, though. Shout out to Spencer Strider for the Braves. He had a no-hitter heading into the 8th inning tonight. Now, it got broken up. Had a perfect game heading into the 7th, but they still won, I think, 11-0. So it was a great performance for the Braves. Now, granted, they have some work to do against top-tier teams like the Astros and the Padres, but they're playing the Marlins right now, so it's a time to get right and get better for those tougher games later in the season.
I just saw that. So there's a chance the Lakers and the Kings meet in the playoffs. Wow.
I mean, any combination that you get here is amazing. And Toronto wins. Toronto has won.
Wow.
They did it. The Maple Leafs. They're going to be up 3-1. You can make my dreams come true. That's a goal sign for Toronto, the Hall & Oates song. The Maple Leafs, they're going nuts in the 6. It's Drake down there.
So I guess the series over, or they heading to Toronto?
It's 3-1. It's 3-1 now. So Toronto now has to find a way to get that 4th one, but this one is huge for the Maple Leafs. So huge. And that team is jubilant. They are dancing on their skates in Amalie Arena. So huge. Is this the year that the curse finally lifts for Toronto? And I guess that's a good way to segue into some Stanley Cup talk because, man, an insane finish there in Tampa as the Toronto Maple Leafs take a 3-1 lead. Also going on right now, you have Vegas, the Golden Knights, taking on the Winnipeg Jets. It's 1-1 up in the whiteout in Winnipeg, up in Manitoba, I think. And, of course, Seattle leads 1-0 on Colorado as they look to try to even the series at 2-2. Vegas leads that Winnipeg series 2-1. In the other 4 games yesterday, you had Carolina beating the New York Islanders 5-2. They're up 3-1. The Boston Bruins blew out the Florida Panthers 6-2. That's a 3-1. Boston leads. Dallas beat Minnesota on the road 3-2. That's 2-2. And the Oilers beat the Kings in overtime. That's also a 2-2. So no series is over yet.
But I guess the Bruins loss in game 1 was a fluke.
Yeah, Bruins are going to finish them off. No doubt about it in my mind.
I mean, they look like a better team, the best team right now. I mean, they had the record in the regular season, but they had to solidify in the postseason.
Yeah, you know what's really crazy is that the Bruins and the Bruins might be in the Stanley Cup, the Celtics might be in the NBA Finals. TD Garden's going to be an absolute madhouse.
Oh yeah, but I guess the New England Patriots and the Boston Red Sox are not going to follow through. Those 2 teams are not going anywhere.
No, not for the time being.
Yeah.
But in terms of some of the just playoff games, playoff series, Devils Rangers, that's been a very entertaining series, very intense series. You figured it would be with 2 teams really right across the river from one another. Because actually for New Jerseyans, especially, that's their team. It's the only team they really have at this point since they lost the Nets. So I think that's great for them. A really good series.
It's so funny between that rivalry and the river that separates us because the New Jersey Devils are the only New Jersey team because in football, I guess there's people in New Jersey who root for the Giants and the Jets, but they have New York name on it. So they just go across the river, play the game, and leave because the team is in the other state.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I guess they don't have to like go take hotel rooms or anything for that series, but I'm sure Game 5 in Newark will be absolutely rocking.
Oh,
Um,
it's not. They don't need definitely. They don't need a hotel at all. Like New York City to New York, like that's easy peasy. I made that travel.
oh yeah, I mean, they just get the train to do that. I think the most interesting series to me though is Oilers Kings because, as I said, for Connor McDavid and for Edmonton, at some point they got to deliver. I mean, it's like the kind of like the Cowboys, right? They used to be great when they had Wayne Gretzky. They really haven't done anything since, and they're in a battle. They're 2-2 right now. They got 2 out of the last 3 games at home. I'll be curious to see if they can defend the Edmonton here in Game 5 tomorrow night. And I gotta see some more from Connor McDavid. I mean, he had 2 assists in the last game, but just not he didn't score, which concerns me. I feel like I need to see more from McDavid. Also, for Dallas, that's a team that has made it to the Stanley Cup Finals recently. Minnesota, it's one of those interesting teams that have a pressure because like Minnesota, it's like the team that's like the most Canadian team that's not in Canada, right? Because Minnesota has a deep hockey history, and the Wild always seem to kind of fall flat in the playoffs. So you have to wonder when do they break through in terms of playoff success. And I think to the Hurricanes, I think they're interesting too because they went deep last year. They've been good for a couple of years now. How will it set up well for them to make Colorado really, really good? So, and Seattle just went up 2-0 on Colorado. I must say, I love like the kind of the dark green towels and stuff. That's great. In
Yeah,
Seattle,
I
so yeah.
mean that's a interesting point. But the Stanley Cup playoffs are very very unique in terms of they are more unpredictable than the NBA. Even though the NBA has been great, but the Stanley Cup playoffs are still unpredictable. And the
Absolutely.
Lakers,
Lakers have taken a 7-point lead.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Actually, yeah, is 8 point lead,
Man,
29-38 at least here.
Memphis is in trouble. And we were asking this question beforehand. If Memphis loses this game, who would be a bigger failure, Milwaukee or Memphis?
I think it's Memphis because, as you said beforehand, uh, M- Milwaukee already got their title, and Memphis. I mean, how much of a window they have with John Morant?
Yeah. And I think that, Memphis has kind of made a lot of enemies. They've talked a lot of trash to each other. And it just doesn't make any sense when you
Yeah,
really look when you look at what Memphis has kind of built themselves up to be versus what they actually have become. And Memphis hasn't won anything yet. They won one playoff series that, frankly, they got lucky in because remember they had to come back from multiple deficits numerous times against Minnesota. They were lucky last year that Minnesota was just the most choking team of all time. Otherwise, they should have been put out first round last year, and then they played the Warriors and couldn't get it done. Um, and now they're facing a situation here where they're gonna have to get put out by a Lakers team that frankly looked dead most of this year, and we thought we're done.
yeah,
So, would be a huge disappointment for Memphis, and I'll be curious to see how they would move past this failure if it indeed becomes a failure. But I'm sure we'll have much more to say on the NBA and Stanley Cup next week as we start seeing some of these results. But really, the news of the day, the sports news of the day, what you're wearing, Gus, your New York Jets jersey, because the New York Football Jets, have finally landed their golden goose, Aaron Rodgers. We've talked about this at length, what this would mean for New York, but now that it's finally here, And when you look at the Aaron Rodgers trade deal,
I think the Jets got one pick. I think was like a third round pick, and the Packers are got a bunch of picks.
yeah. So according to Adam Schefter, the still see Rodgers, the 15 pick in the 23 draft, and the 23 fifth round pick head to the Jets in exchange for the number 13 pick, a 23rd second round pick, a 23rd sixth round pick, and a conditional 2024 second rounder.
This conditional, I love it. It's only if Aaron Rodgers plays more than 65% of his games.
Yeah, so definitely pressure on Aaron Rodgers to play. I will say this though, we've talked about this at length. We've been very critical of him, and I'm thinking back. I was thinking back to our discussion about Tom Brady went to Tampa because we were both on RSS that night, and I said I thought Tom Brady was going to be a bust in Tampa. This isn't going to work. I don't see him winning a championship. You were much more optimistic, and you called the Bucks winning that Super Bowl. Because my gut instinct here is that this isn't going to work. Yes, the Jets have some talent, but I think Aaron Rodgers, frankly, at this point, is nowhere near what he used to be. I think the AFC East is very, very difficult. The Buffalo Bills, to me, are still a better team. Miami might still be a better team. I think they're either the second or third best team in their division. You still got the Chiefs in the AFC. You have several other teams that could be really, really good in that conference. I don't see the Jets truly being a championship team. So as Anthony Davis writhers in pain, but I don't know if that's just kind of one of those things that basketball players do, or if he's actually hurt. Nah, he's fine.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. I didn't want to spoiler alert you, but he looks fine. He was just probably fatigued of the play, like, but
Oh yeah, well he went flying into the basket though, so that definitely had to sting a little bit. But if it's not hurt bad, he'll play through that. But I mean, I truly think the Jets are division round at best.
But now the comparison between him and Brett Favre will be way larger because they both left Green Bay after getting a title and a deep run, being so long there and leaving for the exact same team.
My question is, how long is it before he scams kids in poverty?
Oh,
Like
I don't
Brett
saying
Favre.
that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, like, I know it'll be a long stretch. Probably he will get involved in stuff that is not connected to government money, more connected to probably private people money.
Hey, all I
So,
gotta say is there's an open time slot at 8 p.m. on Fox News in New York. If he wants to make some extra money during the week.
I mean, he already has some experience. I remember he hosts, I think, a couple of shows on TV. If I'm not forgetting, I think he hosts like a TV show or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's really. I mean, could you imagine him doing that? That would be so funny. And then, like, he has Pat McAfee on as a weekly guest, just for the ultimate of ironies. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, this is going to be the story. The media is going to love this.
I mean,
With him being in New York.
he was the host of Jeopardy, so he has TV experience.
Yeah. I do think that on the one hand, I could see him pulling off a Tom Brady and winning a Super Bowl at his second stop at the age of 40. We've seen it once, but at the same time, I feel like Tom Brady, he took a pay cut. He let the let the Bucks really build up around him, which really gave him a really good roster to pull that off. And I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is willing to do that. And I don't think he's willing to do that.
He's moving to New York because he wants to be in the flesh like now. He wants to be in a big city. He's tired of kind of small market, small city, Green Bay, Wisconsin. He wants to be in New York.
Yeah, like what happens if he goes out there and has a bad game in New York and they start booing him? If we know Jets fans, you know, I mean,
Yeah,
they aren't
and
going to
the
cut him any
media
slack.
and local media is not going to be as soft as it was in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin.
No, especially if he starts doing more political stuff. I mean, gotta remember too, he's going to New York City, one of the most left-wing places in the entire country, versus Wisconsin. Um, so if he isn't delivering on the field, they aren't going to be as tolerant of the other stuff either. Um, so I think there's a lot of ways this could go wrong. Um, Not saying it will. It certainly could be very interesting, and I think he's going to need some pieces to really stay healthy. He needs Bryce Hall to do really, really good. Or Brees Hall, I mean. He needs Michael Carter to stay healthy. That would give him a great running attack to go to. I should say, yeah, you got Garrett Wilson and Corey Wilson. Or Corey Davis. God. Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis. Jeez, it's been a long day.
Yeah,
A lot of really good players on that Jets offense. So, I mean, I see them being really, really good. I don't really see them being like the Bills. So, I think if Tua stays healthy, I think the Dolphins have a better offense.
yeah.
But
I mean,
and one thing, the AFC East is going to be very entertaining. Now, I do wonder is because we have seen the example of Tom Brady working it in Tampa. We've also seen Russell Wilson go to Denver and absolutely stink it up.
yeah. Which and now, yeah, and now the big question in the AFC East, like, are the Patriots really gonna be behind and just let all the rivals get the best players, and the Patriots just gonna sit and watch?
Something tells me Bill Belichick, if he is serious about continuing to coach, he's going to have to make a big move here on Thursday. Usually the Patriots don't make draft day moves like that. If anything, they're usually not picking in the first round. Or if they do, they're picking some dude that's on like the 5th round draft board.
Yeah, but what assets could he use to land this big swap?
I mean, because your best assets are on defense, like Mario Judah, or Mario John.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know what
true.
they're
Like,
going to do.
yeah. Like, how long how long Patriots fans are gonna sit and watch all their rivals make moves and you know be competitive, and the Patriots just gonna live on the past?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that they're never going to have a run like they did. 6 Super Bowls in 20 years. And I think, if you're New England, that's going to be hard to sit with because I don't know if you're ever going to find a quarterback that's going to take you to as much of a promised land as Tom Brady did.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just but also I think Bill Belichick really needs to retire. Like, the Patriots gonna be, thank you, Bill. We appreciate for all you did, but now it's time to look for the future.
Yeah, they need a new philosophy. I think they need a more modern one because the way they're playing only works with a guy like Tom Brady. Like Mac Jones is diet Tom Brady and is nowhere near as good. Because like the thing about Mac Jones is even back in college, I mean, yeah, he looked good, but he looked good because he had Devontae Smith and he had Henry Ruggs before he turned into a criminal.
Yeah, and also the running back who went to Pittsburgh,
Oh, Najee.
Najee
Harris.
Harris too. Like,
Yeah,
Najee Harris was a big deal on that offense.
absolutely. So it's a big difference for Mac Jones. And the weapons he has in New England just aren't that spectacular, frankly. At the best they have, frankly, is Ramondre Stevenson at running back. So maybe that's the place to start, too. If you're not going to address your quarterback situation, you got to find a way to get some more weapons. But it feels like the Patriots always miss at wide receiver. That they haven't
Yeah,
had a great receiver since Wes Welker.
yeah, because Bill Belichick. I feel like Tom Brady was also big part of running the offense, and Bill Belichick is really focused on defense.
Right. And now that Tom Brady's gone, they don't have anyone that really can run that offense. So it's just one of those things. How important those relationships are, um, because clearly they don't have that relationship anymore to be successful. So I'll be curious what the next 72 hours are going to be like in that New England Patriots front office as they get ready for the draft, because they really got to figure out something.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I guess now Bill Belichick won't send his dog to the uh, draft meeting.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go
Remember
look because now we have some. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think the Husky's going to have to stay out because this is going to be intense. I was curious now, just looking at a mock now post Aaron Rodgers. Just seeing. Well, I was trying to find where the Patriots are on here. I'm seeing some really interesting stuff, though. Patriots. Oh, they got Darnell Wright at Tennessee. So that's the 14th pick. And I'll just say this, I just kind of want to give what my prediction is for the draft in terms for the Titans. I'm really, really scared we're going to pick Will Levis. I really don't want that. At that point in the draft, I don't know if you're going to have Anthony Richardson on the board. He may get drafted way before. Even there, though, I'm just not sold on Richardson or Levis as NFL QBs. I know they have insane body talent. I know they have their physical abilities are off the charts, but I think we are best off taking a guy like Darnell Wright. That's the guy that I want at number 11 for the Titans. I will say it to the heavens. I think that guy would help us way more right now than a quarterback. Because I think you can ride with Tannehill this year.
Quarterback for the Titans.
Yeah, I would not. I would skip. I would skip quarterback at 11. I have thought about it. That I think is the best decision because I think the only two quarterbacks I'm feeling truly comfortable taking in the first round here are Stroud and Young.
Yeah, I guess you'll not take a risk with Richardson, Will Levis, or even Hen Hooker.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I love Hooker, but we have to be honest. If we take the orange-colored glasses off, he has not ran a pro-style offense, and it's way different than what Heupel's offense had. And I don't know. Like we saw Drew Lock go to the NFL and not be very good. So I truly think that Darnell Wright is the best pick you can take at 11, in my personal opinion. Now, what I did want to bring up, though, is looking at this mock draft from PFF. They've got Brushing at 1, but they have Tyree Wilson, a defensive end from Texas Tech, at 2. I mean, great athlete, but
Why you take a defensive player in the first pick?
I mean, it's worked out well for Cleveland with Myles Garrett. But it's crazy that's not even Will Anderson there. But even then,
but Myles was one of those once in a generation talent.
Yeah, and yet that's what a lot of people thought Will Anderson was like. But we'll say this though: Will Anderson had some games this year where he disappeared. I mean, remember Tennessee? He did nothing. And who is responsible for that? Darnell Wright was responsible for that, which is why I want the Titans to take him at 11 because I think Darnell Wright potentially is a generational offensive tackle. He literally gave up 0 sacks this year, and I'm surprised he's not going higher than where he's being projected. So, because right now they got Stroud going to the Lions. They have the Lions trading up from Arizona. Man, that would be a great move for the Lions. Have DJ Stroud sit behind Jared Goff and get experience, and then have him ready to go on a loaded NFC North roster. I think that'd be great. They got Anthony Richardson to the Colts, which would be interesting. I mean, him and Jonathan Taylor in the same backfield would be pretty intimidating. Not going to lie. Um,
Uh, and imagine this, like that would be the greatest window open opportunity for the Lions because the Packers now are going to be in a rebuilding mode now officially, and the Vikings are a tire fire. So the Lions' perspective coming to the future is really good.
yeah, I guess the only real, wrench there, can the Bears finally get something going with Justin Fields? Or are they way too far behind still?
Yeah, this in this draft they show they really trust him by you know making a trade with the higher pick that Chicago had.
Yeah, it's now by the way in LA. It's now a 14-point game.
Yeah,
The,
the Memphis looks lost. Memphis had a hot start, but then got cold really fast.
I mean, they look like the 7th seed, not the 2 seed.
Definitely.
Um, it's it's kind of embarrassing, honestly, for Memphis. I mean, they're getting humbled in this series. So, as you said, though, we're not going to waste so much time talking about the draft here, though, because we are going to have 3 hours of this on Thursday. Once
On
again, 8 p.m. Thursday evening for episode 75 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. We are going to be here reacting to the draft one by one. I know our friend Jason Wire's going to be here with us. Uh,
and it's gonna be on your Facebook on Thursday
yep.
since
I will be hosting because you won't be here at the start of it, but you will jump in at some point
I'll be definitely
throughout the evening.
jumping at some point. I'll be definitely jumping at some point. I'll be
Yeah.
attending an event that includes my family member being honored at like in the city council. So
Yeah,
I
obviously, congratulations to her. That's amazing.
yeah, it's kind of like being recognized because she works in the healthcare area in the city. So healthcare professionals are being honored because of the kind of like the work they did in the pandemic era.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for her.
But I'll be definitely jumping in with you guys, definitely talking about draft and now. But now I think finally the move is done. Like that's a good thing. Like the Packers now really can think straight and planning for the future now. I guess today Packer fans, as thankful as they feel for Aaron Rodgers, they also have a sense of relief. Be like, we can plan our future.
Oh, absolutely. And we're gonna find out a lot more about the futures of a lot of teams on Thursday. So tune in for that. Real quick, so on the football side of things, spring games were wrapping up this past week. I think the two most interesting games that we saw: Alabama and Colorado. Alabama's quarterbacks. There's been a lot of buzz about this. Jalen Milroe was only 19 of 37 in the spring game, and what's his name? Ty Simpson was only 12 of 26 with no touchdowns. So there's a lot of buzz around Alabama that may be trying to go out and get a new quarterback for the transfer portal. Rumors are they're tampering with Tyler Van Dyke at Miami. Um, the thing is, when you look at Alabama right now, are they on the verge of not truly being elite anymore?
Yeah. Oh, this year will be big for Nick Saban too. Is the dynasty era over, or last year was another one of those fluky years? They come and go in and out.
Absolutely. And that's just not a ton I think you can take from any spring game, but yeah. I mean, but like when you look at their schedule, though, they literally have Texas, LSU, and Tennessee at home. That's a very tough home schedule. Um, if they don't show up and get better, I mean, they could lose any to all of those 3 games.
And the thing is, for Alabama, because remember, their last fluky year, they did not make the playoffs was 2019. The year later, they were undefeated national champions. I know it was the SEC kind of like all SEC regular season, and was less games, but still though, they either going to go, I guess, all in and won another title, or I guess, I think they're not going to make the college football playoffs, and then the dynasty will be the beginning of the end.
Yeah, I mean, this is huge. They do have to find a way, I think, to make the playoffs this year. And I think it's going to be very difficult because I don't think they're going to win all 3 of those games. In fact, they may go 1-2 in those 3 games. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens down there. Probably one of the most fascinating teams to watch in the entire country this year is Alabama. Now, also one of the most fascinating teams to watch this year is Colorado. Um, and I've been saying this all offseason when it comes to Colorado. Temper your expectations. This team was 1-11. When you look at their spring game, you could tell they were very undersized. Not a ton you could take from it. But I will have to say that Colorado crowd was very energized. That was basically a sellout in Boulder for that game. Dion definitely is going to put on a show. I just don't know if it's going to be a winning product to get year one. I just don't see it.
Yeah, they're gonna have to be patient with him because again, he only coached college in HBCU. I know he did a lot for the community, the university, and the historic black colleges, but it's now in another level. He's in Pac-12. They expect to it. The,
Yeah.
and a side note, I don't know if we talked about this. I don't remember. Uh, Vitor Belfort's son, Davi Belfort, Vitor Belfort, he's a Brazilian legend in fighting MMA. His son, quarterback Davi Belfort, has committed to Virginia Tech. Yeah,
Oh,
so
wow. The Hokies.
the Hokies, it was the first big commitment. I was surprised. He had 28 scholarship offers, and I guess he settled for the Hokies. I would say though, isn't Hendon Hooker transferred from Virginia Tech to Tennessee?
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe I would love to see the Belfort playing for the Tennessee Volunteers. Imagine a Brazilian quarterback. I'll be going nuts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that would be a great representation there for Brazil. And Virginia Tech needs someone to save them because ever feel it feels like they've let Hendon Hooker go. They've just been awful. I mean, Virginia Tech is a shell of what they once were. They kind of remind me of where Tennessee was in the early 2010s. I mean, they're just bad right now. They are awful. They're not fun to watch. I mean, they literally lost to Old Dominion again last year. Bad team, a very bad team.
Yeah,
But
I guess the VBL4 is gonna need a lot of toughness, like he dad had in the octagon.
yeah. Also, one quick final college football note. They did approve some rule changes. The main one I want to bring up, they will be letting the clock run after first downs, like in the NFL. In an attempt to speed up the game. I don't know if I personally like this because I don't understand the obsession with making college football faster. We only get 12 of those Saturdays a year. Like every college football game is like a festival to me. It's not like baseball where it's 162 a day, a game, and you have a game basically every day. Um, I mean, college football is special and unique because you don't get that much of it. And I don't know why we're trying to speed it up.
Right? Yeah, but you know what, Nick? You know that, like in baseball, people want the game to go faster because it's more about the game than the environment. Like in college football, they can speed up the game, but the people are still gonna enjoy the win as much as they did. And I feel like the fans are gonna be as cheerful as ever. I don't think this is gonna matter, but that also true. Like, why you want to speed up something that you only gotta taste 12 weeks out of the year?
I mean, it's like when Clay Travis, for example, says he wants to get rid of the bands at halftime. I mean, first and foremost, if you do that, you're only taking 8 minutes off of the game. I mean, it's not that much. And plus, it's a special, unique, traditional part of the game. Like you take away that part, you're taking away it being college football, and then it's just minor league
Yeah,
NFL,
I agree. Yeah,
and
the
you just get the
banter.
XFL,
Yeah,
and
I
I don't
agree.
care. So I don't know. Just I mean, it's not a worst thing in the world. I'm sure it will speed up the game, and I'm curious to see what this does for a team like Tennessee with our up tempo offense. Because I guess it will let us run off more clock. So I think tactically it will actually help Tennessee a lot more because that means that this technically will be less plays our defense will have to play in a game. Because in a way, because our offense is so efficient and we get so many first downs, we go so fast, we're not burning any time. And at least this will allow us to burn at least some time
Yeah,
in a game. So I guess from that standpoint, I kind of like it. I'll be curious to see how it truly helps out or hurts any particular team. One more college note, real quick. The baseballs, they have struggled this year. They were 5-10 heading into this weekend, but they came back to Lindsey Nelson Stadium and swept Vanderbilt. They got a walk-off win in the bottom of the 12th inning on Friday, and then they just destroyed them on Saturday, 17-1, and came back with a 10-5 win on Sunday. I think this is as a desperately needed series, and the 2023 baseballs have finally arrived here in late April, and just in time because they got a couple of weeks, a couple more series, and then it's time for Hoover and the NCAA tournament. And this team still has the talent, in my opinion, to make a deep run.
and I guess Vandy, with all the historic tradition in college baseball, has been owned by the Vols in the last few years.
Yep, 7 straight wins for the Vols over Vanderbilt in baseball.
Crazy to think I was there with you on the historical weekend in Lindsey Nelson Stadium, the start of all this great era.
Yeah, I mean the first weekend back that we had a full stadium. So the
Yeah,
first truly big post-COVID sporting event. So it's good to see the baseballs get back on their feet and get the season going. Also, I did want to provide something on the Oakland A's. So my friend, my former roommate Nick, sent me something. So he sent me a couple of new developments he wanted me to know. So from his opinion as an Oakland fan, he does not think it's a new deal. It seems like there's a lot of locals in Vegas who are trying to oppose funding for the stadium. Mark Davis, the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, has come out and basically told everyone that Oakland management sucks and he will not help them out at all. And he says that the A's have lost their only leverage because Oakland has stopped negotiating and has made that very public. Plus, he does not think there will get unanimous owner approval. The Diamondbacks are probably going to be happy they're coming southwest. The Dodgers and Angels aren't probably not going to be happy that the A's are only giving Giants the entire NorCal, but also encouraging on LA, that being that Vegas is only 3 hours away. So he's suggesting a lot of barriers for the A's becoming the Las Vegas A's.
yes, I guess it's gonna be a move that kind of makes it more talked about than it is. I mean, we already discussed all the reasons, but I guess there's some people that still holding to like some past because baseball is so traditional. But I think it's the right thing to do to move.
Yeah, and Vegas basically represents everything that's antithetical to baseball. The gambling capital, the bright light city. That's everything baseball is not. Baseball is the cornfields in Iowa, you know? So it is very interesting to think about what that will do. But I'm sure it's going to continue to be an interesting saga as we move on forward. One last American note: NASCAR was at Talladega this weekend, and as you know, Talladega big, bad, and fast. Saturday, when the Xfinity race was nuts, there were two flips. Blaine Perkins, he went barrel rolling down the backstretch. Had to be actually kept in the hospital for 2 nights, but I believe he's out now. He is going to be all right, but really, really difficult crash. And then with 2 laps to go, Daniel Hemrick, he went flying too after getting spun, and it was like a 20-car wreck. Only like 10 cars were left at the end. Jeb Burton won that race. Then Sunday, I thought was a phenomenal Cup race, one of the best of the season. Kyle Busch got his second win of the year for Richard Childress Racing. Bubba Wallace had a chance to get his 3rd win, his second at Talladega. He was leading on the last lap. Ryan Blaney, his best friend, tried to go high on him to try to make the pass. Bubba tried to block him and got himself wrecked. And it was unfortunate because I thought Bubba totally had that thing won, but he couldn't get it done. And now he's definitely going to have to fight and struggle to get into the playoffs because he hasn't been consistent. and that was his best chance to get into the postseason. But Kyle Busch, though, that was his first Super Speedway win in 13 years. So huge win for the what they like to call the Candyman, even though he doesn't drive the M&M's Toyota anymore. But Talladega remains undefeated. And honestly, I like Talladega at this point more than I like Daytona. I think Talladega is the best super speedway on the schedule, even though Daytona is more historic.
Yeah, it's a lot about like Daytona is so the key cornerstones of NASCAR schedule. I mean, it's so entrenched, but that's true. Like Talladega also has their value.
Yeah, what a run by Memphis here at the end of the half. 2-point game at halftime. They were down by 15, and then Memphis just came out of nowhere. It was 53-38.
They're
And
gonna
then
put up
Memphis
a
won a
fight.
14-1 run.
Yeah, they're gonna put up a fight, definitely.
Yeah, second half's about to get crazy in Los Angeles. Also, Vegas has scored 2 goals in the last about minute and a half. They have a 3-1 lead in Winnipeg. So the whiteout is kind of silent right now in Winnipeg. But that's kind of all
Ooh.
I have on the American side of things. So American / Canadian, because when we have the Stanley Cup, really, frankly, it's basically Canada too.
So I guess we have to change three countries to Americas still.
Only in April and May, because as we all know, Canadian teams don't make the Stanley Cup finals.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Hey, maybe Toronto, Edmonton, prove me wrong. Anyway,
Proof
what's going on
negative.
down in Brazil?
Down in Brazil, it's Brasileiro, the Brazilian League Week 2. I mean, the talk of the town is Fluminense. I mean, they're just playing magnificent. I don't know how long they're gonna sustain that because it's a long season. Fernando Diniz team tends to be intense, tends to be very physical, very demanding. So, and they're still in Libertadores and Brazilian Cup. So, the thing is, but they won their first 2 games. Botafogo also won their first 2 games, but they play with Sao Paulo. That was a mess with Rogério Ceni's leaving, and today they won against Bahia, which will be a team that will be fighting relegation. But they're only the 2 teams that have won their 2 games. Corinthians lost on the road 3-1 on the debut of the controversial Kuka, which for me I feel like is getting out of hand. If I mean they should trust the guy because he's the coach. There was a decision made by the front office. As we discuss here, Nick. I mean we have all the you know stuff that happened in Switzerland. We talked about it, but I guess he deserves the time to work if he is eligible to in Brazil. If he has no convictions in Brazil and Corinthians front office picked him, I feel like Corinthians fans are really trying to sabotage this season and makes it about the storyline, the kind of like the message than the team itself. That's my point. I feel like, uh, you know, but Corinthians has a huge decision on Wednesday. They have to win 3-0 to advance, or at least 2 goal difference to make the penalty shootouts against Remo. I think they can do it, but if they don't, I think it's going to be a massive upset, and also it's going to be hurting financially because the Brazilian Cup tends to be good payouts if you advance in the next rounds. So being eliminated will hurt them not only on the field but off the field. Palmeiras tied in Rio de Janeiro 2-2. I mean, they were down by 2 and they got the tie. Santos 0-0, and I think Sao Paulo got a win on Saturday 3-0. The first game with new head coach Dorival Jr. I think has a lot of work to do. I'll be tomorrow watching Sao Paulo live in stadium on the second leg in the third round in Brazilian Cup. I'm excited about that versus Ituano. I think it's gonna be a hard game. The first game was tied 0-0, so any other tie will be penalties. Whoever wins it advances. I'll be there on the field watching that game. I'm excited. I love when I can watch because normally I have to be on the press box because I have to do the play by play and also set up the equipment. But there are nights like tomorrow that can just be on the field and enjoy the game. That's what I love the most.
Oh, absolutely, and especially down in Brazil with how unique the soccer culture is. I can only imagine what what that's like. Because as you said, it's college football is the closest thing that you compare it to,
Yeah, I mean,
and
I would imagine tomorrow's going to be a huge crowd. Always when the big teams comes through, like a small city team, the fans show up, but also Ituano fans are going to show up because again, Ituano has been really interesting. I mean, they already made it the Paulista semifinals after saving for relegation. They made the semifinals. They only eliminated by the champions Palmeiras, and in Serie B, which is a Brazilian second division, they're doing pretty well themselves. They they lost they lost the first game. They won the first game. They lost the second game, which they won at home, lost on the road, which is completely normal. And I'll be interesting to see what's gonna be if some. I think São Paulo is eliminated, but I think it's gonna be on penalties or something like that. Something tells me São Paulo is not gonna advance, but we'll see tomorrow night in E2. Uh, so Palmeiras, I think, is going to have a really easy task down in Minas Gerais versus Tombense. The crowd's going to be probably 90% Palmeiras crowd because Tombense kind of we call sold the game, not sold the result, but they sold the home field advantage, the what we call here to the right to host the game in their stadium. They sold to a company that pushed the game to a city miles and miles away so they can profit by selling tickets to Palmeiras fans, basically. I know it's a
it's just
wild.
so many weird stadium things recently, like in terms of like who can host what game, and
Yeah,
like when them host their game, who gets to get the revenue, and it's just wild.
yeah. In Brazil, we have this term like sold the game, like not sold like paid to like give the game away. Like it's just a lot of small teams when they have the opportunity to host a big team, they tend to choose stadiums, you know, for base of profit. Be like, hey, even if I get eliminated, I can make a really good profit here to kind of and then I can use it to make my roster in the other competition better. Tom Bense playing Serie B in the second division nationally, so that money they're gonna make in the ticket office, by Palmeiras fans are gonna help them in the long run. That's what a lot of teams do it. I think it's foolish because it takes away the right of the hardcore fans, the ones who always show up in the bad moments to experience that kind of game. But I understand the reasons, but it's always bad when the team of the team of a small market chose to kind of sell themselves to the next buck. But like as we have a term in Brazil, like soccer teams in Brazil sell their lunch to have dinner later. Do you have heard that term?
Yeah, it makes sense. You want forgo the smaller meal for the bigger meal of the day, and um, it just seems like with so many tournaments, you have to kind of like pick and choose which ones you think make the most sense for your organization. But like every soccer country, I think, does this. I mean, you look at like the FA Cup, for example. You have a team like Oxford Town, for example, that would never have a chance to win the Premier League, but they put all their resources into the FA Cup. They can pull out an upset and go deep.
Yeah, but I would never think that Oxford United would sell their court their court, their game at home to be better at the third, fourth, and even fifth division. They would have prioritized and make their original fans here, but some teams in Brazil just you know f- think in the right now mentality, not developing a culture. But that's what it is. Um, so it's oh, Rio Branco debuted this. They built it. They debut this weekend in the Paulista Under 23, the last division in the state of São Paulo. They got a tie, 1-1. I think the team played really well. There was a lot of intensity. Their coach style was already shown it in their first game. There was a controversial no penalty call. Well, because the ball touched the guy's arm, but it was close to the body.
Yeah.
I
And your
Go ahead.
goal call, by the way, was absolutely epic early on.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, the goal. Yeah, I saw the highlights of it, and y'all.
Um.
I don't know who the other guy was, but y'all are going
Oh,
nuts
the
in the
other
booth.
guy is like the other guy. I'll say though, is the I'll compare him to Tony Buzzelio. He's a Rio Branco fanatic. I, his nickname I put on him is the supporters commentator voice.
Yeah, I mean, y'all. Yeah, y'all were going nuts
Oh,
when Rio
oh,
Bronco
by the
scored.
way, wish me luck on Saturday because I'm going to Santa Barbara with that
Ooh,
energy that you
yeah,
saw in the video. I'm going there with that energy.
yeah, and I know you said you don't care what stadium you're at. You're going all the way in.
Yeah, but Saturday is going to be special because it's Tennessee, Florida, Yankees, Red Sox. Um, I don't know if there's any minor league big rivalry like that, but if that exists, that's it. Rio Bronco and Union Barbarense. We don't like them. They don't like us. They go ahead.
I mean, to me, it reminds me a little bit of like there's a small cultural rivalry in Arkansas. It's Wichita Baptist versus Henderson, no, Wichita State versus Henderson Baptist. They are both located in the tiny town of Arkadelphia, Arkansas, about an hour southwest of Little Rock. Literally, the football stadiums and campuses are right across the street from one another. Like literally, the teams use both of their home locker rooms during during the game, during halftime, and after the game, and they just walk across the street to the football field, other football field. Um,
Yeah, I guess here it's not exactly like that, even though the drive between Rio Branco Stadium and Union Barbarense Stadium is very, very short. It's 10 to 15 minutes tops. So it's a very, very close drive. And I was having a really deep conversation with Rio Branco's coach. That's what I love about Kobe Rio Branco. Like we get like the access you have on Rio Branco. Like I can have really deep conversation with him. And they were thinking about it, being all dressed up for the game before going to the stadium. They're like be already dressed up on the bus.
yeah, and those type of rivalries are special because it's so unique from other road games, kind of like the Devils Rangers that we are talking about earlier.
Yeah,
So
it's the,
it's
and,
really cool.
and the Rio Branco fans now are mad with their coach uh, because the article that my radio reporter slash newspaper reporter, because we're the same company, media company group, wrote it. The coach were contemporizing, say, we're not going to be heated for the rivalry game. We're thinking ahead. The fans are like, are you nuts? I don't care about being promoted. I care about winning the derby. I want to kick their ass.
Right.
Like, Rio Branco fans are like, they want to, get down it. I mean, probably Union Barbarense fans are feeling the same way, especially because the thing is, overall history, Union is better. But recent history, Rio Branco's better. Rio Branco had the largest result in the kind of recent memory, 4-1 in 2019. I think they have Union Barbarense had not won Rio Branco since 2017, I believe, or 2018, but it'd be like almost like 4 to 6, uh, almost like 7 years, something like that. But it's gonna be an intense game. Cannot wait to call on Saturday, 2 p.m. Brazil time. And I have a saying: I'm arriving alive in Santa Barbara. I don't know if I'll make it alive.
Yeah, well, I hope that you are safe on your road trip over to Santa Barbara. Obviously, rivalries can get kind of crazy. I remember going into Tuscaloosa and really wanting to fight some people by the end of that game. So it is what it is. Um,
But it's not
when you
gonna
go
be
on the road.
it's not gonna be a long road trip. It's like 10 minutes away. It's really like I made that drive hundreds of times since I've been here in Americana. It's a really short drive, but I
I
mean,
mean, I drive 30 minutes to work every single day. So, yeah.
yeah. So I guess, but it was one of those kind of because it would be my first time ever calling the Derby game. Like that's the game that you make memories of it, that people remember your calls.
Oh, yeah. Like, so, obviously you got to be on your A game for that.
I'll be bringing my A game. My team will be ready, and I'll send you the link if you want to be curious to see the environment of it. Probably for I'm curious if you. I forgot to send you the link if you're able to watch the actual game or not. That's what I'm
Yeah,
curious.
that's what I was looking for because I was out on Saturday, so I didn't see it. And I do have to work this Sunday or this Saturday, so I'm not sure like if I'll be in a position to watch, but I'll
Oh,
have to see because it's certainly going to be interesting.
and really, really last note in the Rio Branco group 4, there is a big rumor that might become like really happens tomorrow. A team might give up on the tournament, on the championship, literally in the middle. Amparo has put it on their Facebook. They are, uh, breaking the contract with the company that maintains their soccer operations, and the Amparo's president says that if any other invest in like in businessman or some soccer company comes up and takes over the soccer operations, they're gonna just give up on you know on the under 23 Paulista tournament.
Okay, so if I understand it straight, so because this team has undergone new management, they're going to give up completely.
Yeah, yeah, I guess because since up until last year, a company called Field was managing their soccer operations, but they left for another city, and then another soccer operate kind of like soccer management company took over their soccer operations. Like those companies is like, they find the talent, they find the players to play for the team, but if anybody took interest in the player, the rights to sell it and to be profit is from the third party company, not the club who they played. That's the catch.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like one of those some of those really really badly ran race teams um, that defraud people, ruse up all the money, and end up leaving their drivers out on the street. Basically,
Yeah.
I mean that sounds super shady.
So yeah, it looks very shady. I feel bad for the
It's like if Rivals 24/7 started a football team.
yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, it's like it's like you have a company, like for example, I don't know if an XFL team is like, hey, we want football players, and this like next company be like, hey, we find you the talent, we gonna give you the talent, but if an NFL teams want the talent and they buy it from you, we got the money. So that's basically it.
So basically, they're the middleman who just takes it from the first guy and just never gives it back.
Yeah, and I feel so bad because it's a small community. Amparo, their stadium is very small, but it
Wait,
was
that's a Ponzi scheme.
what?
Like literally, that sounds like a Ponzi scheme is you go to someone like, okay, I can make you really rich if you just give this money to me. I will invest it for you, and we will grow. And so you give the money to them, and then someone else comes like, okay, now I need that money. Um, So they give that money to them, but then you don't have the money to give to the other guy, so the Ponzi scheme falls apart. Like that's quite literally what this situation sounds like.
I won't say like it's a Ponzi scheme, but there's very shady situations. More like probably disagreement in terms of probably kind of soccer operations, a lot of political moves. Probably the company there that like the company itself, they're not gonna have probably what is gonna have is gonna like a legal battle, like a civil case in terms of breach of contract or something like that. But I don't think there's gonna be any criminal case because it was just that like a contract issue. Like I don't know what the future is going to hold for the players. It's very sad that you start playing for a team and then the team folds in the middle. Like talk about like it remind me of the situation with the AAF. Like you start playing a season and then right in the middle it folds.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like they're going to be around for very long with that situation. They don't get themselves out of it.
Yeah.
But definitely, I hope those fans realize what's going on and really fight for the health of their
Yeah,
club.
the problem is not the middleman company. The problem is the team's president because I feel like right now, what the issue is like is the what's happening a lot in Brazil soccer. I think I described you like some soccer teams in Brazil is run like a country club. They care about the bar, you care about the social scene, you care about the social activities, but you don't care about the soccer team that you put on the field or the professional side of it of soccer operations. You just want to use the name of the team and the prestige to advance like their social part. And in like Rio Branco has that issue, but not as bad as Amparo, the team that I mentioned. But yeah, it's the only thing interesting about it is if really that happened, it's gonna give me 2 Saturday offs because then I won't have, and also I don't have to drive 1 hour, 3 hours to broadcast a game. So we'll see what's gonna be like for them. Which I know it's sad, but it's harsh reality of lower division soccer in Brazil. But that's it for episode 74. That was a we. I'm glad we pulled it off because I know probably you as well as me are tired, but we made it because we needed this. Because on Thursday is going to be an all draft episode. I'll be joining later, but you and Jason are going to be talking about all their picks and all the expectations and everything. And just a quick side note: Memphis really came back. It's like 2 point difference now. Memphis almost made it. 750 in the third quarter. Seven is Lakers 66, Memphis 64.
Yeah, this is going to be a phenomenal finish. But once again, Thursday evening, join us as we react to the draft. As Jason's a Colts fan, I'm a Titans fan. It's going to be an interesting night. That's for sure to see what our franchises decide to do after very disappointing seasons. And obviously, for you, Gus, with the Jets, we'll see exactly what they plan to do to help Aaron Rodgers. But for Gustavo Tomazeli down in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, I'm Nick Hill in Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States, and you've been listening to the only sports podcast that talks about both the United States and Brazil. It's two countries, two Americas, all sports. Episode 74. You have a good one.